Oh man. It took me so long to get through that press line. I thought they were gonna like cast her here. So I said, "Here, over here."
So was it hard for you, like knowing that your character just decided, hey, I don't have these powers anymore?
It was. I wouldn't say it was hard for me as much as I would say it was weird. You know, I never requested that. You know, sometimes we get a little bit of sort of like leeway in terms of what we want to see from our characters when we work on the show, but that particular decision was not something that I sort of instituted. So it surprised me a little bit when I started reading about his desire to like, you know, get rid of these powers, but at the same time, I welcomed the challenge because I saw it as exactly that, a challenge. You know, I like new things. I like unexpected directions as long as they're, you know, plausible and justified in some way. And I definitely felt like that gave me a little bit of meat to work with because it was so unexpected. And I like defying audience expectations. You know, and I think part of what we do is, you know, keep audiences on the edge of their seats. And I definitely thought that making such a decision was controversial, and I like that.
Well, I want to welcome you to Team Civilian.
Okay, thank you, Team Civilian. I feel welcome.
Yeah. What is life like for Cisco now that he doesn't have to worry about doing the vibe?
Oh man, life is just peachy. I think he's kind of on top of the world because he's reaping the rewards of everything he's wanted. Of course, it took him quite a while to sort of figure out what he wanted, but obviously, as we all saw at the end of season 5, what he wanted was best encapsulated in him deciding to take the cure so that he wouldn't have to bear the burden of being Vibe and making his work life his personal life. I think something that was important for him in order to maintain sort of emotional stasis was to create a division between that work life and that personal life, which was emblemized in his relationship with Camilla Huang. So I think being able to cater to her and give her the attention that she needed and sort of keep those worlds separate was very important to him. And I think the decision to take the cure was definitely a big stepping stone for him. So you can definitely expect to see him in a very content place at the beginning of season 6. Yeah.
What else is coming up for him in season 6?
Well, I got some shitty talking points, so I'm gonna have to make up my own talking points right here. It's hard to say. There's basically Barry learned something that's critical, and that this is such a non-answer. I hate it, but like we all learn his way of communicating that and relaying that, and everyone's sort of independent reactions to that. That's really sort of the meat of the conflict of the first half of the season, and that's something that I'm really interested in exploring, because usually we paint very broad, very primary colors in terms of how things take place, how people respond to it, how characters respond to it. But I definitely feel that everybody's responding to the sort of conflicts that arise at the beginning of season 6 in different ways, and that I think creates dimension and complexity and dynamics. So.
The team that you should rely on Cisco's powers. Do you feel like his part inside of the team, his dynamic with the team changes a little bit now that they're gone?
I don't really think so. I think part of what's great about Team Flash and what they have going on is that they're a family, right? And they're a core unit. And even though you may not always understand why your Uncle Bob did X, Y, or Z, you can love him enough to sort of support him through that decision and respect him, and I think that's definitely the kind of energy that's being explored between these characters. Is even though they might not completely understand why Cisco made this decision, they recognize that it's something he felt he needed to do and something that was important to him. And Cisco can't be his best Cisco if he's not happy, and if carrying the burden of being the superhero is not making him happy, then obviously that had to go.
You like the mini arc morality what they did with the cure in terms of is it right to do it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot, but the thing is sometimes when we work on the show, obviously there's a lot of fingers in the pie, and a lot of those fingers want clear storytelling, but there's a difference between clear storytelling and really just hitting audiences over the head with something. And so I definitely felt that there were times where like we sort of had to fight against that, because what I really loved about that was that it was something really like legitimate, and it wasn't like a really interesting plot point, but I didn't want it to like become this big thing that we just sort of like revisit over and over and over again, because it loses its value. I think part of what was so interesting about that plot point was sort of how unexpected it is that we were tackling the ethics of giving someone a cure. You know what I mean? So so I thought that was really interesting, and I think we ultimately what we ended up exploring in the broadcast and everything like that. I think that was a good balance of everyone's interests.
One of the good things about when you were Vibe, you got to get out of Star Labs a little bit. So now that I don't want to be stuck in Star Labs. Are you going to get to go and explore, like maybe visit Camilla as a citizen?
Well, that's the thing is, I think as Cisco's exploring, kind of how to balance his life a little bit more. I think when we follow Cisco through his own sort of plot points, you see not just how he helps the team and how that relationship develops, but also how his relationship with Camilla develops. So it's not just following him in the lab, it's also following him when he goes home after work, and he, when he punches out, you know what I mean? And he always clocks out at a certain point,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. To this game right here.
Yeah.